hot dog. There was a time I thought truth was something you could arrive at cleanly. Through logic, through conversation, through enough thinking. But life has a way of interrupting that, because eventually you don't just think about truth, you get pressed into it. Not in theory, in loss, in chaos, in betrayal. In the kind of moments where everything you thought mattered gets stripped away, where what you built doesn't hold, what you trust fractures, where even your own reactions don't look like the person you thought you were. And in those places, something becomes very clear. You don't rise to your beliefs. You don't rise to your intents. You fall to what is actually true enough to hold you, which in some cases isn't much. That's where the journey begins, not as an idea, but as a necessity. You stop asking what feels true and start asking what remains when everything else is gone. And somewhere in that, a different question forms. What if truth isn't proven by how well it's argued, but by what survives when life applies pressure? So you test it. Not casually, definitely not halfway, but in the places where it would actually matter. It doesn't start with certainty, at least for me it didn't. It doesn't even necessarily start with belief. It starts with a willingness to live as if God exists. Not to declare it, not to convince anyone, but to see if that reality can actually hold me when nothing else does. So you begin to live as if truth isn't optional, integrity isn't negotiable, and love, grace, and forgiveness aren't weakness. That what you do, seen and unseen, actually counts. I lived as if there's an order to things, as if alignment produces life and distortion produces suffering. And then life did what life does. It didn't soften. Oh boy, man, it pressed harder. There were moments where things didn't just feel uncertain, they felt absolutely dismantled. Where what I loved was threatened, where what I hoped for felt out of reach, where narratives were shaped around me that didn't reflect what I knew to be real. And in those moments, this wasn't a philosophy anymore. It was either going to hold or it wasn't. Because pressure reveals something argument never can. What is true doesn't collapse when it's challenged. It may bend, it may stretch, it may even go quiet for a while. But it does not require distortion to survive. What isn't true needs help. It needs constant reinforcement. It needs constant control. It needs constant protection from being exposed while offering absolutely nothing in return that you could use as a soothing balm on your raw and overstimulated nerves. So I watched, not for immediate answers, but for endurance. What steadied me, even when everything felt unstable? What remained intact, even when everything around shifted? What produced life, even when I was walking through things that felt like death? Because over time, something became undeniable. That truth is not fragile. It is refining. It doesn't always remove pressure. In fact, sometimes it allows it. Why? Well, because pressure reveals what can actually last. You think of like gold being refined. And this is the quiet framework I now live inside. Not something I perform, something I return to. I begin with a premise I don't force myself to believe, and that is God not only exists, but is also good. Then living in alignment with Him should produce something that not only endures, but also produces good fruit. And then I choose to live it out fully enough that the outcome means something. I slow down my conclusions. I let time speak. I let reality respond. And I pay attention and watch for what holds. Not so much when it's easy, although that's nice when you get a little bit of reprieve. Not when it's supported, but when it's tested. Because what is true will remain standing when everything else falls away. And what is not won't survive without something in me having to compromise to keep it alive. So this is where I stand now. I don't start with certainty that God exists. I start with a willingness to live as if He does. Because if He is real, that reality will reveal itself over time. Not just in comfort, when everything's going my way, but under pressure, in deep, tragic, and even unjust loss. In the moments that strip everything down to what is actually there. And if He is not, well, then nothing built on that assumption will last anyway. So I don't argue it. I don't defend it. I simply engage with it. Oh, Shiloh, come here. You want some? Oh, here. Yeah, you can have your hot dog. Peace.